She came home with a paint stain on her neck and said it was from a gallery wall. That's the moment I knew something was off. It wasn't the stain, not really. It was how she said it, like it was a fact she expected me to accept without a second of doubt. She didn't even look at me when she said it, just walked past me, tossed her bag on the hallway bench like it was any other Wednesday, and asked what we had for dinner in the same breath. You don't need to be a genius to feel it in your bones when someone's lying, especially someone you've shared a bed with for 8 years. We weren't talking much lately, but we weren't fighting either, which was worse in a way. I work from home as a digital illustrator, mostly for indie games, so I'm around the apartment more than most people. I see things. I hear things. I notice patterns. Like how she used to hang her coat by the door, now she tosses it on the back of a kitchen chair. How her shoes always end up in the wrong place. How she checks the mirror twice before leaving now, even if it's just to pick up groceries. The gallery she volunteers at part-time had suddenly become her second home, even though she used to complain the people there were boring as hell. That should have been the first red flag, but I brushed it off like a dumbass. I didn't want to think about what it could mean. Denial has a comfortable seat in most marriages. Then came the art auction last Thursday. She told me I couldn't come because it was not really for the public, just some kind of internal thing with the embassy crowd and too many diplomats and protocol crap for me to enjoy. I nodded, didn't push. I never pushed. But something about how fast she said it, how quick she shut it down before I could even offer to tag along, it stuck. I had a weird feeling, but nothing concrete. So I did what any half-suspicious husband with half a spine would do. I didn't follow her. I followed the art. The gallery she works at is tucked into the side of a cobblestone street near Prague's Old Town, hidden behind a wine bar and 2 doors down from a place that sells antique maps. I waited until after she left, grabbed a coat, and headed there, not to stalk her, not exactly, but just to see for myself. I didn't go inside. I waited across the street, leaning on a wall like I was waiting for a cab. Through the front windows, I could see people milling around, sipping wine, talking, fake laughing, the whole artsy crowd scene. She wasn't in view at first. Then she walked into frame, laughing too loud at something, clutching a wine glass like it was a microphone, and standing too close to a guy I'd never seen before. That's not what bothered me, though. What bothered me was what happened next. He leaned in. She didn't lean away. And then he reached up and wiped her neck, right where I'd seen the stain hours earlier, and showed her his fingers like it was some kind of inside joke. She laughed again, put a hand on his shoulder, and whispered something. He smiled, looked around, and then walked off into the back. She followed 30 seconds later. That was it. I crossed the street, walked around the side of the building, and found the back entrance. No camera. No lock. Just a fire door with a push bar. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I stood there with my hand an inch from the door for at least a minute, breathing like I'd just run 10 blocks. I had no proof, no photos, no video. Just what I saw with my own eyes, and the part of my gut that kept screaming, "This is happening, and you're just standing here like a fool." I didn't go home right away. I walked. Just wandered the city like a ghost with nowhere to haunt. I ended up at a 24-hour diner near the train station, ordered coffee I didn't drink, and stared at a cracked sugar dispenser for half an hour. When I got back, she was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I stood in the hallway like a stranger in my own home, listening to her fake breathing and wondering what the hell I was supposed to do with everything I now knew without knowing. The next morning, she acted normal. Asked if I wanted eggs. Told me she was going to meet a donor for lunch. She kissed my cheek, and I flinched. She didn't notice or didn't care. After she left, I went back to the gallery. Not inside. I wasn't ready for that. Instead, I slipped through the alley behind it and found the windows to the storage room where she and that guy had disappeared. The windows were high and covered in white film, but one of them had a corner peeled back. I climbed on a trash bin and looked in. There wasn't much to see, just a bunch of rolled-up canvases, shipping crates, and a chair. But the chair had a wine glass on it. And next to it, a scarf that wasn't hers. I didn't take a photo. I didn't knock. I just walked away again. My chest felt like someone was sitting on it, not letting me breathe unless I agreed to accept what I already knew. She was cheating on me, and she wasn't even being careful about it anymore. That night, I said nothing again. We watched a movie. She laughed at something dumb. I watched her mouth more than the screen, trying to remember if it had always curved like that when she smiled. It felt like living with a stranger who had access to all my memories. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. No one cheats the same way. Some use phones, others hide messages, delete apps, switch names and contacts. But Lena? She did it with a goddamn gallery wall and a wine glass. That was her version of subtle. And the worst part was how good she was at pretending she wasn't lying to my face every single day. I started keeping a notebook. Not digital. A plain black leather notebook I'd hidden in the lining of an old art portfolio in the storage closet. I wrote down every odd thing. Every unexplained absence. Every new name she dropped. Times. Dates. Expressions. The way her tone shifted when she said she was tired. It made me feel like I had some kind of grip on the chaos, like I wasn't just sitting in it helplessly waiting for the hammer to drop. I stopped trying to kiss her. She didn't notice. I stopped asking where she was going. She stopped telling me. We were two people sharing a roof, lying to each other in different ways, day after day. And still, I didn't say a thing. Because I needed to be sure. I needed the moment. That one undeniable moment that would turn all my suspicion into certainty. And when that moment came, it wouldn't be in a text. It wouldn't be in a call log. It wouldn't be a stupid lipstick stain or a perfume she never used before. It would be something no one could explain away. And when it happened, I wouldn't just confront her. I'd make sure she remembered it for the rest of her life. The moment I was waiting for came quicker than I expected, and it didn't come through some dramatic outburst or some hidden message I stumbled across. It came from a woman with chipped red nail polish and a cigarette she didn't even light. I was sitting in front of the gallery across the street again, same spot as last time, except this time it was late. The place was closed, no light inside except for the dim glow coming from the back room, the one I had stared into days ago. I told myself I wasn't stalking her, but that was a lie. I was staking it out like it was a crime scene, because deep down I already knew what was going on, and I needed to catch her in the middle of it. The woman with the cigarette came from the bar next door, leaned on the same wall I was leaning on, and looked over at me like I was either pathetic or familiar. I didn't say anything at first, but she did. "You're not waiting for her again, are you?" she asked, not looking at me directly, just flicking ash off a cigarette she hadn't bothered to light. I turned my head slowly. "Excuse me." She gave me a look like she'd seen this all before. "The woman you're watching. The one with the long coat and the fake laugh. You're not the only one." I didn't respond, just stared at her, waiting for her to explain herself, waiting for something that made sense. "You think I don't notice the way he waits for her after closing? The way they come out together and pretend like they're walking in opposite directions before slipping into that back alley." She flicked the unlit cigarette into the gutter and pulled out another one like it was part of her routine. "I work at the bar. I see everything. They're not subtle. The guy she meets, he parks 2 blocks down and comes in through the rear service door. He never uses the front. Never." I felt my jaw tighten. I didn't even ask for her name. I didn't want it. I just wanted to know what else she knew. "How long?" I asked, my voice lower than I intended. She shrugged. 3 weeks maybe. Could be more. I don't watch every day. But enough to know it's not just wine and conversation. One time I saw her fixing her hair in his car window. You don't fix your hair for someone you're not fucking. I stood there, every muscle in my body tense, like I could punch a hole in the pavement. She tapped her lighter against her thigh, then finally lit the cigarette. "Look, I'm not trying to cause trouble. Just thought you should know. You look like someone who's been lied to a little too often." She walked away after that, and I didn't stop her. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up reading every note I had written, trying to piece together a timeline, a pattern, something that would lead me to where she was heading next. The next day, I acted normal. I made coffee. I worked on a client's commission. I responded to emails. I even joked with her over dinner about some guy I saw in a gallery who looked like he glued his beard on. She laughed, but it wasn't real. I could tell. Everything about her had become performative, like she was playing a role in a play she didn't care about anymore. That night, she said she was meeting the gallery director to discuss an exhibit extension. She left wearing lipstick she never wore for me, heels I hadn't seen in over a year. I followed her, but not immediately. I waited 10 minutes, gave her time to think she was in the clear. Then I grabbed my keys and headed out. I didn't go to the gallery, though. I went around, took the long way, came through the alley where the service door was. Just like the bartender said, the car was there. A dark Audi, clean, expensive. Not the kind of thing someone struggling in the art world drives unless they're bankrolled by something or someone. The back door was open a crack, enough for me to hear voices. Her voice. His voice. I stayed still, didn't move, didn't breathe too loud. Then I heard it. "He suspects something," she said, and the sound of it felt like a slap to the face. Then stop being so obvious, the man replied, and she laughed, low and dry. You think I care if he finds out? I'm just tired of pretending we're still in love. He doesn't get it. I didn't need to hear more. I pushed the door open, stepped inside, and they both froze like statues. She was sitting on the arm of the couch, her hand on his shoulder, and he was holding a glass of wine. Her face turned pale when she saw me. Adam, she started, but I cut her off. Don't, I said, voice flat. Just don't. The guy stood up like he was going to say something, but I didn't give him the chance. Don't open your mouth. He backed up. She stood there like she was trying to decide if it was better to lie or to admit it. So that's it. I asked her, this is who you really are now? She didn't answer. Didn't even apologize. Just crossed her arms like she was waiting for me to be done so she could go back to whatever she thought this was. I walked out without saying another word. I didn't need to scream or throw things. The silence said everything. I didn't go home that night. I wandered until I found myself outside a 24-hour laundromat with flickering lights and an old man asleep inside leaning on a table. I sat on the cold bench outside, phone in my pocket, but I didn't touch it. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want sympathy or advice. I didn't want to hear that I should calm down or take the high road. I wanted to sit in silence and feel every second of what she'd done crawl across my skin like poison. I'd spent the last month convincing myself I needed proof, but the truth was I didn't want to believe the signs until she shoved it in my face. The next morning, I let myself into the apartment with the spare key I kept hidden in the basement storage box. I didn't bother being quiet. If she was there, I didn't care. I wanted her to know I was back. The place smelled like her perfume, like it always did after she came back from seeing him. She wasn't home, though. The bed was made, her toothbrush gone, her favorite mug not in the sink. She'd packed a small bag and left. No note. No call. Just vanished like a coward who got caught and didn't want to deal with the mess she made. I stood in the middle of the apartment staring at the spot on the kitchen counter where she usually tossed her phone and keys. It was empty, just like everything between us now. Around noon, I started pulling things out of drawers. Not in a rage. Methodically. Quietly. I grabbed a trash bag, filled it with her clothes, her makeup, her books, and stuffed it in the hall closet. I didn't throw anything out yet. I just wanted her out of my space. Then I opened my laptop and got to work. I remembered something she said months ago during one of those nights we had wine and she pretended to care about my job. She talked about how important her image was with her embassy friends, how most of them were connected to people in political or corporate positions, how everything she said and did had to be calculated. I remembered it because she made me feel like I was some low-level background character in her life, someone who didn't belong in her world anymore. So I started planning. I wasn't going to scream in her face or break anything. That kind of drama fades fast. No, I wanted her to feel it in the places she couldn't fix with a fake smile or a new dress. I logged into our shared email account, the one she forgot I had access to because she only ever used it for apartment bills and travel itineraries. There it was. Her inbox full of confirmations, receipts, RSVPs, and messages from her little circle of gallery people and embassy friends. I didn't need to go looking for dirty messages. That wasn't the goal. What I needed was dates, locations, patterns, names. She had meetings scheduled for the next 2 weeks, some with donors, some with embassy reps, one with the cultural director of a European art foundation. All of them official. All of them places where she needed to be seen as professional, classy, untouchable. I created a folder. I filled it with everything. Photos from the gallery's website of her and the guy she was screwing around with. Screenshots of her calendar. A copy of the guest list from the last event she claimed she was working at but was actually at a hotel with him. I even found a gallery catalog that listed both their names under a joint project. That's when I saw it wasn't just an affair, it was a plan. She was trying to move up, using him to climb while dragging me behind like an old coat she didn't want to throw away yet. That was the final push I needed. That night, I emailed the folder to the gallery director. Not anonymously. I used my name. I wrote a calm, factual message explaining the situation, how I didn't want any drama but thought they deserved to know their partnership was less about art and more about sneaking around during work hours. I didn't beg. I just laid it out and let the truth do the damage. Then I booked a cleaning service for the apartment. Not because I cared about the mess, but because I didn't want her sent anywhere. I changed the sheets, packed her things into boxes, labeled them, and stacked them neatly in the corner of the living room. The only thing I left untouched was the necklace she always wore, the one I gave her on our 5th anniversary. I hung it on the bathroom mirror where she could see it when she came to grab her stuff. She could take it or leave it. I didn't care either way. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I knew she'd come crawling back when the fallout started, when her polished little world cracked under the weight of her own decisions. She underestimated me. She thought I'd just walk away quietly, hurt but harmless. She forgot that the quiet ones watch everything. We don't explode. We dismantle. And I was just getting started. 2 days after I sent that email, the gallery director replied with a message so formal it might as well have been written by a lawyer. She thanked me for the information and assured me the matter would be reviewed internally, which basically meant they were going to talk about it behind closed doors and figure out how to clean up their mess without anyone important finding out. But I wasn't interested in polite emails or private apologies. I wanted consequences, real ones, and I knew exactly how to make sure she couldn't hide from what she did. I waited until Friday. That's when she always had her stupid social brunch with the embassy women at some overpriced rooftop cafe downtown. I knew she wouldn't miss it because she lived for their approval. It wasn't about friendship. It was about being seen, being talked about, being admired by people she barely respected. I dressed up, not for her, but because I wanted her to see that I didn't look like a man falling apart. I walked into that cafe like I had something important to say and no time for anyone's bullshit. I spotted her immediately. She was sitting at the corner table with 3 other women, all laughing too loud and wearing sunglasses they didn't need. When she saw me walking toward her, her face froze for just a second before she forced a smile like she was trying to pretend everything was normal. I didn't stop to greet her. I placed a white envelope on the table and looked her in the eye. "Open it," I said, loud enough for the others to hear. She hesitated, trying to read my face, then slowly opened it and pulled out the stack of printed emails and photos. I watched her smile drop in pieces as she flipped through the pages, her eyes moving faster with each one, hands shaking just slightly. "What is this, Adam?" she asked, her voice tight and sharp, like she was already trying to turn the situation around and make me look like the unstable one. "It's what you've been doing for the last month while telling me you were building a future," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's every time you left the apartment and lied straight to my face. Every event you dragged his name into so you could hide what you were doing behind a title and a wine glass. It's the truth. And now they know. Your gallery knows. Your embassy friends know. This is just the first table." The woman next to her looked at the papers, then back at Lena with a face full of confusion and disgust. "Is this real?" she asked, holding up one of the pages. Lena didn't answer. She just stared at me like she couldn't believe I was doing this to her in public. I leaned down, close enough so only she could hear the next part. "You lied to me. You used me. And then you insulted me by thinking I wouldn't find out. You treated our life like it was optional, like I was some backup plan in case your little fantasy with him didn't work out. So now you get to live with what you built. I'm not your husband anymore. I'm the one who ended your bullshit reputation." Then I turned and walked out, not looking back once. I didn't need to see her reaction. I didn't care if she cried or chased after me or tried to explain. The performance was over. She'd spent weeks playing the confident, untouchable woman while sneaking around like a bored teenager, and I was done giving her the benefit of the doubt. It was time she faced what it felt like to have everything unravel in front of the people whose opinions she valued more than mine. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a message. It was her. "We need to talk. You didn't have to humiliate me like that." I stared at it for a long time before replying. "I needed to make sure you felt something. Because clearly, cheating wasn't enough to make you realize what you destroyed." She tried calling. I let it ring. Then she texted again. "Can we meet and talk like adults? Just once?" I told her to come by the apartment the next day. Not because I wanted to hear her excuses, but because I wanted her to see how little of her remained in that space. The next morning, she showed up wearing the same kind of outfit she always wore when she wanted to look innocent and serious, neutral colors, no makeup, hair pulled back. She stepped inside and looked around like she was expecting everything to be the same. "You packed my things," she said quietly. "No. I removed your things," I corrected. "There's a difference." She looked at the boxes, then back at me. "You didn't even want to talk about it? You just jumped to public humiliation. You had a month to talk about it," I said. "You chose lies. I chose honesty." She sat down, rubbed her temples, and started with the usual bullshit. "I didn't mean for this to happen, Adam. It just got out of control. I was unhappy, and I didn't know how to tell you without hurting you. You didn't want to hurt me, but you had no problem letting him be with you while I was cooking dinner for both of us." I didn't yell it. I said it plainly, and she flinched. "You don't understand it." "No, I understand just fine. You got bored, found someone else who made you feel interesting again, and instead of being honest, you played both sides until you got caught. You didn't think I had it in me to fight back. That's what really pisses you off. She didn't deny it. She just looked at the floor. She stayed sitting there like she was waiting for me to take something back, like maybe if she showed enough regret I would suddenly forget what she'd done, but nothing she could say was going to rewind what I saw, what I heard. And how completely she dismantled everything we had. I stood across from her, watching her squirm in a place that used to be her comfort zone, and it felt exactly right. I wanted her to feel what it was like to not belong anymore, to sit in the silence she created and understand that no apology was going to repair anything. So what now? She asked, still avoiding my eyes. I looked at her for a while before answering. Now you take your things and figure out where you're going, because I'm not dragging this out for months. There's nothing to fix, Lena. You ended it when you decided to lie to my face and pretend you were still invested in this marriage. You're not my wife anymore. You're just a problem I already solved. She finally looked up at me, and for a second, there was a flash of something. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe it was just anger that I wasn't giving her what she wanted. I didn't think you'd be so cold. You didn't think I'd find out, either. You thought you'd get away with it and that I'd be too nice to ever fight back. You've been treating me like a backup plan for months, and the moment I confronted you, all you did was try to protect your reputation, not our marriage. Don't expect compassion now. She nodded slowly, stood up, and walked to the boxes like she was trying to process that this was actually happening. So that's it. You're not even going to ask if I regret it? If I still love you? I don't care if you regret it, and I don't need you to love me anymore, I said. You made a decision, and I'm not going to sit here trying to understand the emotional gymnastics you used to justify it. You did what you did because you thought I was disposable. You didn't think I'd have enough self-respect to end it. She grabbed one of the boxes and carried it toward the door. Her eyes were red, but she didn't cry. She wanted me to think she was holding it together, maybe to save some kind of dignity, but it was too late for that. I opened the door for her and stood aside. You can come get the rest tomorrow. After that, I'll have it shipped somewhere if it's not picked up. I don't know where I'm staying yet, she said. Not my problem, I replied. Call your gallery boyfriend or one of your embassy friends. I'm sure someone will offer you a place to crash while you figure out how to spin this into something that doesn't make you look like a complete failure. She walked out without saying another word. The hallway door closed behind her, and for the first time in weeks, the apartment felt like mine again. Over the next few days, I focused on taking care of every loose end. I visited the bank, separated our accounts, closed the joint card, updated the landlord that she would no longer be on the lease, and scheduled a meeting with a lawyer who specialized in fast divorces. I didn't drag it out. I didn't ask for anything more than what was fair. I just wanted it done clean, without theatrics. She tried calling twice. I didn't pick up. She sent me a long message asking if we could meet to talk about the logistics and whether we could do this like adults. I replied with a time and location for a meeting in a quiet cafe near the lawyer's office. When she arrived, she was dressed down, not trying to impress anyone, just carrying a folder and a nervous look. We sat at a table in the corner. I didn't order anything. She placed the folder between us and looked at me like she wanted me to open it first. I didn't. I went through everything, she said. There's nothing I'm going to contest. I'll sign whatever you want. I don't want this to get messy. It already got messy, I said. You just don't want it to get worse for you. I get it, okay? She replied, her voice sharp now. You're angry. You should be. I screwed up. I let something start that I should have shut down. I betrayed your trust. But I don't want us to become enemies. We were good once. We built a life. We built a life, I corrected. Then you started building a separate one behind my back. She opened the folder and pushed the paperwork toward me. I've signed everything. Just give it to your lawyer. I already did, I said. This meeting was just closure. We don't need to talk again unless it's through the lawyer. So that's it, she asked. I stood up. It ended the night you chose him over me. The day the papers were finalized, I didn't feel relief or anger. I just felt done. There wasn't a celebration, no long exhale, no sudden rush of clarity. It was just a quiet moment in a lawyer's office, a few signatures, a polite nod from a stranger in a suit, and the knowledge that a decade of my life was now legally over. I walked out into the street and blended in with the rest of the city like I hadn't just erased a marriage that was supposed to last longer than her attention span. I didn't call anyone. I didn't post about it. I didn't want a round of applause for finally closing the door on someone who should have been gone the moment she chose someone else's bed over her own. She never showed up again. The rest of her stuff was picked up by a courier she hired, like she couldn't face walking through that door again. That was fine. The place looked different now anyway. Her empty side of the closet didn't bother me. Her favorite coffee mug missing from the kitchen didn't sting. Even the silence at night didn't feel heavy anymore. Everything just returned to normal, a different kind of normal, but one that didn't come with anxiety or fake conversations or pretending not to notice the lies. A few weeks later, I ran into someone from her world. It was one of the embassy guys, a stiff type who always acted like I wasn't quite good enough to be part of their little circle. He didn't recognize me at first, not until I looked him dead in the eyes and said his name. He blinked, awkwardly shook my hand, and made some dumb comment about how things must be interesting now that Lena was taking time for herself. I didn't react. I let him fumble through the rest of his sentence, watched him search for some polite excuse to walk away, and then I finally spoke. She took time for herself by sleep with someone in a storage room behind a gallery, I said. His face dropped. I didn't give him the satisfaction of hearing more. I turned and walked away, and I'm sure he sprinted to whatever circle of snakes they still drank with every weekend to tell them what I said. Good. Let them know. Let them all know. Months passed, and I started to enjoy the quiet. I took on more freelance work, started going out more, met new people without the weight of being someone's husband dragging behind me. I didn't rush into anything new. I wasn't looking to replace her. I wasn't even trying to heal. I just wanted to exist without being lied to. That's what cheating does. It doesn't just break trust. It makes you question your own judgment. Makes you wonder how long you were fooled and how blind you had to be to miss the signs. One night, I got a message from her. It was short. I heard you've been doing well. I'm glad. I didn't reply. She didn't deserve a response. That wasn't bitterness talking. It was just the truth. When someone makes a conscious decision to betray you, when they don't apologize for it until they've lost everything, their words become worthless. That message wasn't about me. It was about her checking to see if I'd still acknowledge her existence. I wouldn't. She was a chapter I'd already closed, one I'd read too many times trying to figure out where it went wrong, when the answer was always the same: she went wrong. The last time I saw her was by accident. I was walking past a bookstore downtown, and she came out with a bag of overpriced art books and that same expression she wore when she was lying to my face. She looked surprised, then smiled like we were old friends running into each other on a nice afternoon. I didn't smile back. I nodded once, kept walking, and didn't turn around. That was the real ending. Not the lawyer's office, not the boxes stacked in the living room, not even the public exposure. That 1 second of eye contact where she realized I didn't care anymore, that she no longer mattered in any part of my life, that was the end she deserved. Now when people ask why I'm single, I tell them the truth. I was married. She cheated. I left. That's it. I don't dress it up. I don't soften the story. I don't make excuses for her or pretend it was more complicated than it was. She wanted something else, so she took it, and I let her go. That's what you do when someone shows you who they really are. You believe them. Then you leave. No fireworks, no speeches, no begging for closure. She got exactly what she earned. And I moved on with nothing left to clean up.